All right, so here's our flow chart. I tried to simplify it, so just follow the arrows, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about each phase along the way. So let us begin with the pre-trial stages of legal processing. You might remember from a previous discussion there are 3 stages of legal processing: pre-trial, trial, and sentencing. So we're going to start with pre-trial, which is kind of a very generic term that means everything that happens before trial. Kind of the legal equivalent of thingy. And so everything that happens before trial. Pre-trial stages of legal processing. Well, before we can do anything, we have to have an arrest, don't we? We have to have a bad guy. We have to arrest him. This is partying Paul. Now, before you think too poorly of him, because clearly you can see that he's drinking alcoholic beverages in large quantities, let me tell you a little bit about partying Paul. He's a real nice guy. He's 21 years of age, so that is a legal alcoholic beverage for him. He is a nursing student here at Delta College, okay? He's a nursing student, so he takes really hard classes like organic chemistry and anatomy and physiology 1 and 2 and calculus and stuff like that, like really hard classes, not like criminal justice, like really hard classes that require lots and lots of work and homework. So he's been studying really hard. So he does that. He has an apartment with 2 housemates. He works part-time, kind of part-time, full-time, you know what I mean? Where they put you on for a lot of hours but don't give you any benefits, at a nursing home. Yeah, like that. Not very much money, a lot of work. So he works at a nursing home, and he has just had the week from hell, okay? First off, he failed a major exam that he thought he had knocked. He studied really hard for it, and apparently not hard enough. So he failed the exam, and he was pretty upset about that. And then his girlfriend broke up with him. That makes it worse. And then, just yesterday, one of the favorite residents at the nursing home that he works in passed away. He's just had a bad, bad week, and he's pretty devastated. So it's Friday, and here he is coping inappropriately, okay? Because drinking large quantities of alcoholic beverages to kill the pain is not a good way to cope. It's not healthy, it's not productive. But hey, he's 21 years old, and that's what he's doing right now, regardless. That by itself isn't a problem, but see, here's the problem. Partying Paul goes out with some of his friends, in fact, his housemates, and continues to consume large quantities of alcohol. Still not a problem if he would have taken a cab or called somebody to pick him up, but he doesn't. He can't. He's really drunk, and he knows it. He knows he shouldn't be driving. Can't call his girlfriend because she broke up with him. Can't call his housemates because they're there with him. He's got nobody to call. So he rolls the dice and he thinks, well, if I'm really, really careful, I drive home on the back streets, I go just below the speed limit, I come to a complete full stop at every stop sign, I should be okay. Good plan, right? Except for the drinking and driving part. So that's what happens. He eases out of the parking lot at the bar, carefully, with the turn signal on, turns down the road and goes very carefully, very slowly over the speed bump. Ba-bump, ba-bump. And then he stops and he thinks, wait a minute, there was not a speed bump here when I came in. Because, folks, it's not a speed bump. He just ran over a pedestrian. Yep, didn't even see him. Boom, ba-bump, ba-bump. Of course, there's a lot of people around in the bar district, and people are swarming off of the sidewalks, coming out of the bar, and everybody's screaming and yelling and banging on his car, and taking pictures, taking video, uploading it to YouTube. The police show up. There's partying Paul. He's pretty drunk. Got tire tracks over the body. Got all of these witnesses, all these bystanders who have photographs and streaming video. Are we going to arrest partying Paul? We are, aren't we? What do we need to make an arrest? Anybody? Intro to criminal justice students? What do we need to make an arrest? Probable cause. Yes, arrest requires probable cause. So do we have probable cause between the tire tracks and the witnesses and the photographs and the video? We do, don't we? So we can hook him and book him. Poor partying Paul. Booking. What is that? Booking. Here, read this book. No, not like that.
Putting somebody into the system.
Putting him into the system, like how? Head first?
No, fingerprints.
Fingerprints?
Yes.
Pictures? What else?
Personal info.
Yeah, we're going to get some personal information about him. So we're going to call booking the official recording of the arrest. The official recording of the arrest. So we're putting him into the database now, getting all his information, all that stuff. Now once he's booked in, then you can see on your flow chart what happens next. All cases begin in district court. Even though he's committed a felony, I mean, this is manslaughter here. And he didn't mean to kill the person, but he did. All cases begin in district court. So we're going to start with the district court arraignment, okay? District court arraignment. Now some textbooks call it an initial appearance or whatever. Some states call it that. In Michigan, we call it an arraignment. So 4 things happen. I put those up in red because I'm going to go through this slide real fast since we're going to walk through every one of those very slowly, okay? But procedural rights are read, charges are read, a plea is entered, and bail is set. Those 4 things happen. So let us begin with the procedural rights part. Procedural rights are read. Does anybody know what those are? What do we mean when we say procedural rights? Okay?
It's the rights that you have when you're in court. Like, you don't have to be like self-incriminating. You know that you.
Okay, where do those rights come from? You're correct. The Constitution. So essentially the constitutional rights of the accused. This is your due process of law. I'm sure you've heard of that from TV, right? Due process of law. What we're really referring to is the constitutional rights of the accused. So this means that we can't just arbitrarily treat you in a certain way in court, that we have to do the same thing for you that we do for everything else according to a very specific legal procedure. You have this in your course pack handouts. What you see here is an advice of rights form. So when a person goes to an arraignment, they give them an advice of rights form, which essentially informs them of their due process rights, their constitutional rights of the accused. Now this says misdemeanor charge, but it doesn't matter, it's the same. So to plead guilty, not guilty, have a trial by a judge or jury, to have the assistance of an attorney, the right to an attorney appointed. Let's see, let's come down here. Number 4 is the big one. If you have a trial, you have the following rights: to call witnesses for you, hear, see, question all witnesses against you, to be a witness against yourself or remain silent, and to big finish, to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, right? The next thing that happens is the charges are read. So for partying Paul, we're going to give him with the 1-2 punch because we've got a manslaughter and we've got a drunk driving, a felony misdemeanor.
Sounds like a good time.
Poor partying Paul. You got a feel for him, right?
Yeah.
Moral of the story is, whatever's going on in your life, though, don't drink and drive. Now, the charges aren't necessarily written in stone. They could be modified at a later time. It depends on the prosecutor. The prosecutor makes this decision. Next, we're going to set some bail. In felony case, the judge's got to set bail. We're going to call bail the pledge of money or property in exchange for the promise to return to further court proceedings. And there was a little article on bail in your course pack, right? Yeah. Which you, of course, read prior to coming to class. The pledge of money or property in exchange for the promise to return to further court proceedings is the definition of bail. Now, I need a little help here. I'm a math major, and I'm not sure I understand what this means or how it works. So could somebody explain this to me, please? What is bail really? I mean, this is a nice definition, but what does it really mean? How does it work? I'm confused.
I mean, it's collateral to make sure that you're actually going to show up. Because once you show up, you get it back. But if you don't show up, then it's going to be back.
Oh, wait, all right. Let's slow down now. She says collateral to make sure that you show up. Like, what are you giving for collateral?
It's just
Money, yeah, probably money in most cases, sometimes property if it's a really high bail, but usually money. So how does this work? How does this collateral thing work then? You give somebody some money, right? Are you like bribing the judge? Is that how this works? You're not bribing the judge. Okay, so explain this to me slowly and clearly now.
The judge set a bail, and in order for you to be released, you have somebody brings the money up to, I guess, the jailhouse
Okay.
in order for you to be released. And it's in the system like what you have to pay.
Okay, so you're not bribing the judge. Somebody brings money, or what if you have enough money on your own? Could you do that?
Yeah, that could use.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have to involve a third party.
Right, depending on how much.
Okay, so you are basically paying a certain amount of money to get out of jail, and it's not a bribe to the judge, right?
Into court, right, to be released. To court.
Okay, so where does this money go then?
Go to a bail bondsman.
Do we have to involve a bail bondsman?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying money right now to get out of jail. Are you?
Courthouse takes it.
What's that?
The court takes it.
The court takes it. Okay, and what does the court do with it? You're right. What does the court do with it? Throw a big party?
That I don't know.
They let
They hold it for safekeeping in a special account, don't they? Okay. So now explain to me how this collateral thing works. Now they have your money. Now what? So you're done? You can go free and you don't ever have to come back again? You've just paid all your penance?
You have to return to your next court date.
Oh, you do have to come back to court again. When do you have to come back to court?
Date.
Whenever they say, right? So you have to come back to court every single time they say, or else what? Yeah, they keep your money, right? That's what collateral is. They have your valuable thing, your money, and they won't give it back unless you do what you say that you're going to do, which is to come to court every time. Yeah, see how that works? Isn't that slick?
There's more consequences than just that if you don't show up to court. Normally, it's like contempt of court.
Oh yeah, if you don't show up to court, not only do they keep your money, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest and you can stay in jail now. Yeah, because now you have shown us that we can't trust you. And we need you to be in court when you're supposed to be in court. So yeah, they'll just arrest you and put you in jail now. That's not good, is it? Yeah. Now, if you do go to court each and every time that you're supposed to, do you get your money back when you're all done? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. Now, some people say, well, no, you don't. They only give you part of it back. Well, not really, okay? Let's see, Devonna, right? Let's say that I owe Devonna $20, but Devonna owes me $10. Are we just going to be passing money back and forth, or am I just going to give her the balance due?
You're gonna give me my remaining $10.
Right, see, and that's how it works with the courts. So let's say that somebody paid $5,000 in bail, but they owe the court $2,500. Rather than writing 15 checks back and forth, right, the court's just going to give the balance due. Doesn't that make sense? So you really do get all your money back, if you think about it. Yeah. So do we understand how bail works now?
Yes.
It enables a person to go free and remain in the community instead of having to sit in jail while their case is being processed, which is, I'm sure you agree, a much more favorable disposition. Now, there are different kinds of bail. A judge could set a cash bail, which means that the judge wants 100% of the money listed. So if the judge says $50,000 because, hey, you killed somebody, man, that means they want all of the cash, 100% of it. Now, Partying Paul probably doesn't have $50,000. So he either sits in jail while his case is processed, or he's got another option here. He can involve a third party who might be able to help him. So this is where your bail bondsmen come in. It's what we call a surety bond. So he's going to go ring-a-ding-ding, hello, Cozy Bail Bonds. I need some help, help. I've got a $50,000 bond and I don't have $50,000. Now this is a business arrangement. Bail bondsmen aren't charity. So the bail bondsman comes down, meets with Partying Paul to make sure that he's not a flight risk, okay? And he wants Partying Paul to have a little skin in the game too. So typically bail bondsmen want somewhere around the vicinity of, like maybe 10%, just so you get some skin in the game. So 10% of $50,000 is how much? $5,000. Yeah, Partying Paul's got that. I mean, it just wiped out his college savings account, and he's going to have to sell his car, but he's got it. Okay? So he makes the arrangements, you know, he gives the bail bondsman the money, and the bail bondsman now promises the court that Partying Paul will come back every time he's supposed to. You see how this works? Partying Paul promises the bail bondsman promises the court. So if Partying Paul skips town, who's on the hook for all the money? Bail bondsman. Yep. Now they are businesses for profit, not charitable organizations. So whether Partying Paul goes to court or not, they're going to for sure keep that $5,000. That's their fee for assuming the risk. If he doesn't go back to court, if he skips town, to avoid having to pay the court all of that money, what do you think they're going to do?
Go after him.
They're going to go after him. And this is where your bounty hunters come from. No, not dog. It's a horrible show. But this is where your bounty hunters come from. Often they are agents of the bail bonding company, and they go out and pursue the person who has absconded. That's what we call it when somebody doesn't come back to court, absconded. So they bring them back. And then, of course, he's not going to get a bail. He's going to sit in jail, and he's lost all the money, too. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Interim, that's your percentage? Yes, ma'am.
So when it said third party, how does that work? Like, so the third party is like, instead of a bail bondsman, it's a co-signer?
Mm-hmm. Well, then they're on the hook for the money. So if Partying Paul's mom and dad come in and put the house up, and he doesn't show up, they lose their house. Yeah, so it's kind of a big deal.
You do that to family, you're some sort of scumbag.
I would agree, yes, you are a scumbag to do that to family.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Interim, percentage. This is your 10%. This is the one that most people are familiar with, the 10% bail bond. So the judge could say, well, Partying Paul, $50,000, 10%. So he's got to come up with what? $5,000. Yeah. But then if he doesn't show, they can hold him accountable for the entire $50,000, see? Then we have what we call the PR, the personal recognizance. Or some books call it release on recognizance. Recognizance refers to your personal word of honor. You gave your promise, your word of honor, that you're going to come back every single time that you're supposed to, and they won't charge any money of you. You just promise, sign on the dotted line, I will come back every time I'm supposed to. As you might imagine, they don't give these out for really serious crimes. Partying Paul isn't going to get one. Different jurisdictions use these differently. Midland County, that has their shiny new jail with lots of bed space, is very stingy with personal recognizance. They don't give them out very much, even for relatively minor crimes. Bay County, who is actually a little overcrowded, usually, still is pretty stingy with those. I'm not sure why, but they are. Saginaw County, on the other hand, that has a bit more violent crime and a more crowded jail, passes these suckers out like candy at a parade. You know what I'm saying? Here you go, personal recognizance, there you are. And they use them pretty freely. So it depends on where you are as to how common they are. Finally, we have the flip side of that. Spin a 180 now, turn that whole coin over, and we have what we call preventative detention. We are not giving you a bail or a bond because you are a flight risk or you are a significant danger to the community. If we let you out, you're going to go, maybe you're a rapist, right? And if we let you out, you're just going to go rape more people. So no, we're not going to let you out. You can sit right there in jail. Or maybe you're a big-time drug dealer. We were dealing with some of these folks back in the day. And I'm not talking, chump change stuff. I'm talking about cartel leaders who were moving kilos of product over international lines, and we were holding them for the Marshal Service. And I mean, you can imagine, right? Even if you gave them a really high bail, the judge says, Mr. Martinez, your bail is $1 million cash. And Mr. Martinez goes, Paco, bring the briefcase. Boom, $1 million. And guess what? He's on the next plane to Colombia. So for somebody like that, no, we're not going to give you a bail. And if you're a danger to the community, you're going to keep doing the same awful things. If we let you out, we're not going to let you out. We can do that. So you see we've got all these different kinds of bails, right? So we've got procedural rights are read, charges are read, bail is set. That leads us to entering a plea. A plea is entered. Now you could plead guilty. What would that mean if you pled guilty?
Waive your rights.
Okay, wait a minute. One at a time now. What'd you say?
Waived all your rights.
You waived all your rights? What'd you say?
Same thing.
Same thing. Somebody else. What else does it mean?
You're just blatantly admitting that you did it.
Okay, you're admitting that you did it. You're accepting responsibility. And I got two people here telling me that you've waived your rights. Why is that? I don't understand. I'm a math major. How does that come to be? If you plead guilty, you waive your rights? That doesn't seem right.
You're not even in trial at this point, so you're just saying.
Oh, so you're not going to go to trial. Well, now wait a minute. Didn't we just learn that that's one of your rights, that you get a trial? How come you're not going to trial?
Saves a lot of time. Just say you did it.
You accept the consequences of it.
Ah, okay. So let me ask you this. What is the purpose of a trial?
To determine innocence.
To determine guilt. Right? We're assuming you're innocent until proven guilty. So the purpose of a trial is to determine guilt, is it not? Mm-hmm. And if you're saying that you're guilty, what would be the point of a trial? So if you look at your little chart there, we just go zip zop all the way over to sentencing now, because all the rest of that stuff, we don't need to do it anymore. You just said you were guilty and saved us the trouble and the expense of a trial, right? So you're accepting responsibility, you're giving up your right to trial. You advance to sentencing because there is nothing else to do with you. We're done. It's like saying, game over. So what this means is that you will not be meeting with the prosecutor, you will not be making any kind of a plea agreement, nothing. The full weight of the law will bear down upon you, and you're going to get the full penalty for that charge. Remember, we're only at arraignment. Do you think that that is a very good idea at an arraignment? Before the race has even started, you throw up the flag. Say, I quit. Game over. Probably not a good idea. Not at an arraignment. I wouldn't recommend it. So then you could say not guilty. And what would that mean? You didn't do it? Partying Paul says not guilty. Does that make him a low-down, high-smelling, scum-sucking liar?
Just means that he wants a trial.
Oh, Alyssa said no, it doesn't mean that he's lying at all. It means that he wants his due process. All those rights that we just learned about, procedural rights, he wants that. That's all he's saying when he says not guilty. It doesn't mean that he's lying. It's really okay to say not guilty. He's requesting his due process rights. Please give me my constitutional rights. I would like those. Thank you. And once that happens, now he's just going to advance to the next court process. And now he can get himself an attorney. The attorney might meet with the prosecutor. They might work out a plea agreement. I mean, lots of things can happen because the ball is still in play here, folks. We say guilty, game over. Dead ball. We say not guilty, game on. Right? That ball is still in play, and lots of different things could happen now. Would you agree that's probably a better plea? Yeah, definitely. It doesn't mean you're lying. It's okay to say not guilty. The next plea is called mute. We all know what mute means, right? Not to speak. That's kind of what this is here. Now you say, Your Honor, I plead mute, or Your Honor, I stand mute. You actually have to say the word, okay? You can't just stand there and go. Yeah, the word has to come out of your mouth. Your Honor, I plead mute. And who could tell me what mute means?
Not guilty.
Yeah, kind of like it, yeah. So first off, you're invoking your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, not to incriminate yourself, which is pretty smart. You know, you don't know what's going on yet. You haven't met with an attorney. You're frightened. You're confused. You don't want to say anything that's going to incriminate you. It is treated as a not guilty plea. And if you look back here at your advice of rights form, right there, number 1, to plead guilty, not guilty, or stand mute. Follow me here. If you stand mute, a plea of not guilty will be entered. And that's exactly what the judge does. They put it on the record formally. The defendant has pled mute. The court will enter a not guilty plea for the defendant on his behalf. And then it gets processed just like a not guilty plea. So you might ask, well, why would you plead mute then? Well, because some people are really nice people, and they didn't have the benefit of an excellent criminal justice class like this, and they don't understand that not guilty doesn't mean that they're lying, right? And they're nice people, and they don't want to be liars, and they don't know what else to do, and they know pleading guilty would be a bad idea. So this is just kind of there as a fallback for people that don't want to be considered liars, right? And the judge treats it just exactly the same. So you really could plead not guilty and it would be okay. So again, just like not guilty, you advance to the next court process. Finally, we have the no contest plea. Mostly, we see no contest pleas later on in the process as a result of plea bargaining. But under certain circumstances, a judge might allow it at an arraignment. Okay. No contest. So in a no contest plea, basically the accused person, we'll say partying Paul, says, Your Honor, I offer no contest to the charges. I will not fight the charges. Do with me as you will. Okay, so what happens next? Does he get a trial? Do we move forward? What do we do? What's going to happen to partying Paul now? He just said he won't fight.
Sentencing.
Oh, we go straight to sentencing. We don't have a trial, do we? Why? Why don't we have a trial?
Basically pleading guilty.
Well, not exactly. It's not treated as a guilty plea. Not exactly. Somebody else? Somebody get her back? Okay.
You're accepting responsibility without accepting fault.
I like it. You're accepting responsibility without accepting fault. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Now, let me explain a trial. We agreed that the purpose of a trial is to determine guilt, yes?
Right.
Through an adversarial contest, right? So you got the prosecutor over here saying, yep, he did it. You got the defense attorney over here saying, nope, nope, nope. A contest, a fight, if you will. Right? It's an adversarial process. Now imagine going to a boxing match or a mixed martial arts match or something where one guy comes out and he's ready to fight and the other guy comes out and just lays down on the mat. That's not really much of a fight, would you agree? And that's kind of what happens when you say no contest. Right? You offer no contest to the charges and you lay down on the mat. You're not going to fight. So if one party is not going to fight, what's the point in having the fight? So since there's nothing else to be done, we just move straight to sentencing. Without any, give it the right to trial, advance to sentencing with no statement of either guilt or innocence. They're not saying they did it. They're not saying they didn't do it. They're just saying they'll accept the punishment. Now imagine partying Paul. He feels horrible for what he's done. I mean, my God, he's going into nursing. He wants to help people and save lives, right? He's a really nice guy. He feels awful about what he's done. And he would love to say, I'm guilty. Punish me harshly. I deserve it. But he knows better because, right, you got to believe this is true, that the family of the person that he ran over is going to sue the socks off of him. And if he says guilty, that guilty plea can be used as evidence against him in a civil trial, which is going to make that trial pretty much a slam dunk, right? Which means partying Paul loses everything. So instead, he says, I am going to accept the punishment. Punish me harshly, I don't care. But I'm not going to say I did it, I'm not going to say I didn't, I just punish me. I'll take the punishment. So in some cases, a judge might take a no contest plea at arraignment. Mostly they don't. Okay? Mostly you see no contest pleas later on down the road, usually as a part of a plea bargain. Now, here's my question. If you ever get in trouble with the law, based on what we have learned today, what is the best plea to give? Not guilty. Yep, just say not guilty. It's okay to do that. Say not guilty and advance to the next stage. Does that make sense? So 4 pleas: guilty, not guilty, mute, no contest, correct? And you could differentiate between these on, I don't know, say a multiple choice question on an exam. All right. The next big thing that's going to happen, lots of little things could happen in between, but we're going to leave those out. The next big thing that's going to happen in a felony case is called the preliminary exam. Preliminary exam. So if you look on your chart, you can see where we are. This is in felonies only, because what it does is it determines probable cause that a crime was committed, and it was committed by the defendant. So it is sometimes called a probable cause hearing for this reason. It determines probable cause that partying Paul did run over this guy while he was drinking and driving. Now, recall the standard that was required to make the arrest. What did we need to arrest partying Paul? Probable cause. And we need probable cause for this. Let's see, the probable cause was the tire tracks over the body, the witnesses, the photographs, the streaming video. We still have all of that, don't we? Do we still have probable cause? Yeah. Mostly the police are pretty good at their jobs, and they make good arrests. Arrests are hardly ever contested, really. And so by the time you get to the probable cause hearing, most of the time this is kind of a slam dunk too. But it's a safeguard to make sure that the person isn't being advanced into the criminal courts, into the felony courts arbitrarily. If probable cause is found, if the district court judge determines that there is in fact enough probable cause that partying Paul did run over this guy while he was drinking and driving, then the case gets bound over into the circuit court. Remember, we learned about circuit courts processing felony cases. So the case gets bound over to the circuit court for further processing, which is where felony cases belong.